Grifter, welcome to the SAINTCON hallway.
Thanks for having me.
We had you on a digital one, but you know, we're actually like here at the con, and we got prettier cameras, so
nice.
Let's make it better.
Let's do it. Wait, is that gonna mean I look worse? Yeah.
Nope,
yeah.
It's better.
Okay.
Your handle, Grifter. I know a bunch of this, but you earned this, or was it assigned to you?
No, well, it's self-assigned, actually, yeah. Because when I started out, I was really young, so, and we didn't really meet in person and things like that at that time. And so for me, it just came from a name that I used when I played video games, but I was a nerd child. Shocking. But I used to read the dictionary, and the word that the definition that I saw for grifter said, a person at a circus or carnival who runs freak shows or games of chance. And I was like, that's dope.
That's a great segue into DEF CON contest.
Legit. It has become more like fitting as the years have gone on, from the days of running 26 SLC and then DC 801 and then helping with DEF CON and Black Hat and all whatever. Freak shows.
Was this just you as a kid, your vision board, you put, I would like to run this chaos of a circus in the future, and you just manifested.
Hashtag manifests. Yeah, absolutely. I guess so.
Words of affirmation were just grifter, and with the dictionary definition.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, let's actually list those things. What are the community things that you do or have done? What is this resume? And I feel like I got another 8 minutes to go on that.
Yeah. No, so like I said, I mean, I guess my thing initially, really, it started out with the 2600 meetings here in Salt Lake City. I'd attended the meetings in New York when I was a kid, because that's where I grew up. And then when I moved here, I went to the 2600 meetings at the ZCMI food court. And when I showed up, there were 7 people there. I was one of the 7. And I was like, this is not a lot of people, you know, coming from New York. The expectation was there would be more people there, but there wasn't. And I talked to Kenny, who ran the meetings at the time, and I said, hey, would you mind if I, like, tried to get more people to come and did whatever? He's like, you can take the whole thing over. Like, he couldn't wait to get rid of it. And so that's what happened, is I ended up taking over the meetings from him, and I like printed out flyers and put them in 2600 magazine and all whatever. And at a certain point, we ended up being one of the largest 2600 meetings in the country. There was us and LA were the largest ones, which is weird. Like, we were actually beating out New York, which is where, you know, I had started. So that it all started there, which eventually rolled into turning into DC 801.
Were you a part of the SOBIT thing in between that?
I was before that. So before the SOBIT days. So
no, like his own SOBIT society.
No, yeah. Again, that comes after the initial one. So we ran the 2600 meetings in Salt Lake for a few years, and then the magazine started getting fairly political. Like, it was actually telling people in the editorials like how they should vote in the upcoming elections and things like that. And I was like, ooh, I don't like that. Like, I think people should be able to decide whatever they want. They shouldn't be influenced by the hacker magazine that they read. And so I talked to Jeff Moss, who did, you know, Dark Tangent, who founded DEF CON and Black Hat, and said, hey, what if we did meetings that DEF CON supported, and you know, they happened all over the place, and we could do it by area code and that kind of thing. Because 2600 is getting really political, and it'd be nice if there was an alternative, and there isn't right now. And DEF CON was the only thing I could think of that was large enough to do something like that, right, or have that kind of influence that was global. And he said, you know, like, he was like, yeah, that's great. Tell me how you want to do it. You talk to Russ Rogers. You know, Russ is, I always call him like the hacker, like, head vampire. Like, he like blesses people into the industry and into the community. And so I reached out to Russ, and he's in Colorado Springs, and we came up with the format for DEF CON groups. And DC 719, Colorado Springs, and DC 801 were the first 2 DEF CON groups, and we ran them from February 2003 until that DEF CON that summer. So those 2 meetings ran for, 6 months. And then we announced DEF CON groups at DEF CON, and then it spread like wildfire. So, yeah, Colorado and Utah were the first.
And then you suddenly are like, I'm going to run things at Black Hat and also run things at DEF CON. And
well, I was one of the administrators of the DEF CON forums, and I was complaining because at the time I was self-employed. I had my own, company doing network consulting and security and stuff. And I was a kid, essentially, in my early 20s, and I said, Black Hat costs too much money. It's ridiculous if you're like a student or you're somebody who's like self-employed. It's just too much. I don't have giant corporate backing. And oddly enough, Russ was like, hey, if you want to volunteer, I can get you introduced to somebody who you can go and help out as a volunteer. And I was like, that'd be great. And
so he blessed the Black Hat too.
He also blessed the Black Hat. And so Ping, who was the Dark Tanger's wife at the time, she sent me an email. Hey, Russ said you would be interested in volunteering. If you want to do that, I'll reach out to you more toward the summer. This is like January, early February timeframe. And then 2 weeks later, she sent me an email and said, hey, somebody dropped out that was going to help at our Windows show, because Black Hat used to do a Windows show up in Seattle. And she's like, if you want to come and help out, we'd love to have you. And I was like, absolutely, like I think that'd be great. And I went and I volunteered for that show, and then they went off to do the Europe show in Amsterdam. And the person who did what I do now at Black Hat and runs all the network stuff left all of the equipment on the loading dock in Seattle, and they flew off to Amsterdam. And then it turned out to be a holiday in Amsterdam. They couldn't get any routers or switches or access points, nothing, right? And so then that guy didn't do that anymore, right? Like and Jeff called me, Dark Tangent. He called me and was like, hey, we really liked you at the Seattle show. Like, would you be interested in running the network for Black Hat at all of our shows around the world? You can bring a crew with you. We'll pay you. We'll pay for your flights and your hotel and all whatever. And I was like, that sounds amazing. Like, yeah, I'm 100% I'm in. And I went out and did that show, and that was, again, it was 2003, and I've been doing it ever since. So this past show that just went by was my 21st year running the network at Black Hat. So,
and you're like, I'm going to go bring my friends and all these vendors for the knock and all this structure and fish bowls.
Yeah.
It's kind of progressed.
It didn't start out with all of that. It wasn't as big of a circus, right? The first show was actually...
Hang on. It's not as big as a Grifter at that time.
What's that?
It wasn't as big of a Grifter at that time.
It wasn't as big, yeah. What it ended up being was like me and 2 of my friends who went out. One of them is Kampf, who helps out at SAINTCON here. And Kampf and Deadhead and I... went out and did the U.S. show. And at the time, that U.S. show was 1,200 people. Now it's 25,000 people. At the time, it was 1,200 people. Still, 3 people trying to run the network for that was not enough. Like, it was not enough people. And we adjusted. Then we started bringing people like or Wi-Fi Luke, or whatever you want to call him, who also is part of the SAINTCON community, and Kopek, who's over helping out in the hardware stuff. So all of these guys have all been part of this community stuff forever. And yeah, as the show grew, we did everything ourselves. We ran open source scripts. We did Socris boxes. We put, a firewall in every room that we just pinged to see if it was alive. Like, and that's how we knew whether the network was up or down. Like, it was put together with thoughts and prayers. Like, I don't know, let's put together with spit and duct tape. But eventually that scale, when it started breaking like 10,000 attendees and stuff, it didn't work, right? And we decided, and at the time I'd brought Stump in, and we worked together at Juniper Networks, and I loved him, and he was a really reliable dude. So I'd brought him in, and when we'd been doing it together for a few years, and I was just like, man, this is so stressful. This is just too hard. Like, and we're like, what if we just went and asked the vendors if we can use their gear, and we'll put their logo in the program or up on the website, and we'll be like, yeah, Black Hat chose this firewall, right? then we're like, all right, well, let's see. Let's go down to the expo floor and see if anybody be interested in that. And so we did. And the first vendor we approached was like, oh, absolutely. Like, what do you want? How much stuff? When can we give it to you? When do we start? You know, and they're like, can we send people too? And they'll come and they'll help. And we were like, oh, my gosh.
Yes.
Like, yeah, that would be great. And then we just kind of went, let's go shopping, right? And we walked around the expo floor, and we picked the technologies that we thought were the best fit to run a conference like Black Hat and the unique challenge that comes with that type of environment where you have 10,000 security professionals, a.k.a. hackers, all learning new things and trying those things on each other as soon as they learn them, right? And, yeah, it's a fun challenge. Obviously, we're still doing it. You're a part of it, right? You know, you've been there, you've seen it, and you keep coming back. So something's wrong with you as well.
That's a fact.
Facts.
And then that escalates to, I'm going to be on the review board. I'm going to present at all these. I'm going to also, right at the end of that, help run DEF CON.
Sure. So, yeah, I guess I'm just a glutton for punishment. Because in the early days, like the first conference I ever spoke at was DEF CON 10. And at that time, DEF CON 9 or 10, now I can't remember, was the first year that I gooned at DEF CON. So I was a goon. I sold T-shirts in the vendor area. Like my wife and I made T-shirts. So I was a goon. I sold T-shirts. So I was a vendor. We were running the movie channel, the scavenger hunt, and I was a speaker. And I did that, and I spoke at DEF CON 10, 11, 12, and 13. And I was a vendor at all of those as well. And I gooned at all of those. Did the movie channel at all of those. Did the scavenger hunt, and I was just like, this is too much. Like, it's too much. I can't do it. Plus, I also was doing an administrator on the forums, and I was just like,
you have a job.
Right.
You have a family.
And I was like, I'm going to be
done. Other
done.
Conferences around the world. You're writing a book in there.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I did write a book in there. My first book was written in there, or two, something. I don't know. And I was just like, oh, I can't keep doing all this. Some of it has to be done. And so and during that time, I also got asked to help select the content that goes up on stage, right? So at the time, it was just a couple of us, and Jeff would actually take the submissions, print them out, and then FedEx them to my house because he lived up in Seattle. He'd FedEx them here to Utah. I would put my notes on them and FedEx them back. I mean, that's how gangster we were doing it back then, before we had a really good submission system. So I started doing those selections also many moons ago. Yeah, it was a lot.
It sounds
some things
like a lot.
It was a lot. And I backed away from some things. We handed off the scavenger hunt after Civiac won it like several years in a row. We're like, cool, now your actual prize is, this is yours now. You get to keep this. And he ran it for years. The movie channel, we handed that off as well.
And also the con's growing. You're going from some, few thousands to it's just massively growing. And that makes everything just
huge.
Way harder.
Yeah, again, orders of magnitude and scale. I tried to quit gooning after DEF CON 13 because I was doing all those things. I just said, like, hey, I think I'm going to be done. That was the last year at the Alexis Park. I said.
Was it your last year?
It was not.
How many years you been gooning now consistently?
I was, so this was my 22nd year gooning. So it was not my last year. Sorry. I'm even hearing that through my headset.
Yeah, so we're in the hallway. People just yelling.
I know, people are just yelling. It's just, I can't hear what he's saying. I just know that he's laughing.
I think they're saying, you're not going to get your mini badges if you're past this point, so you might as well leave.
Yeah, that line is big. It's a super fun game. That's the thing. So,
all right, tell us about the game. That's
a perfect example of like when something is going well, it's the scale then becomes your challenge. When things are going well, more and more people want to be part of it. And that's what was happening with DEF CON. That was happening with Black Hat. That was happening with all the different things that we were doing. And so yeah, it got crazy. My thing after DEF CON 13 was I was like, I can't do all of these things. I'm going to quit gooning. I told Jeff I was done, and he said, please don't quit. And he was like, we'll come up with something else for you. We're moving to a new venue next year. we'll figure out what it is that you're going to do. And so at DEF CON 14, we moved to the Riv. And when we moved to the Riv, they had these skyboxes up there. And Jeff was like, we can throw parties in these, and you can decide who gets them, right? You can just decide who gets these spaces, and we'll figure out something that they have to do to get it. And I was like, okay, well, maybe they have to provide content during the day so they can throw a party at night. And that's what happened is, like we just said, if you are interested in throwing a party, what will you bring to the conference in order to earn this space? And in the end, that's where the villages come from. One of the first villages, or the first village, really, the one that called themselves a village, was the Lockpick Village. And Tool came in and said, we want to throw a party at night. And so they came in and set up a bunch of lockpicks so that they could have a party, and they called it the Lockpick Village. And now villages are everywhere at every conference all around the world. And it started all because people wanted to party with their friends at night. And so they set up a bunch of lockpicks, or they set up a bunch of soldering irons, and they set up a bunch of Wi-Fi equipment, and we had the Wi-Fi village and all these different things just so people could party with their friends. And now those are like integral parts of conferences, so it's cool to like be a part of that, like, as well, of like creating that and seeing it like go out and become this thing. And really, it was all about, like, bribe me for this space. Like, how are you going to get this space for your party? So, yeah, it's kind of cool.
Well, let's properly transition to the yelling.
Yes.
There's a badge here, and
there is.
There's a game, and I haven't even booted my badge yet, but, like, you went all in. Yeah, like last night you were ditching every 10 minutes to, I don't know, you want to give a minute high level or 30-second high level of what you did and why it was a...
Sure. So it's really fun, which is why that line is so huge.
Hold it up just a little bit higher.
Oh, okay.
Right there, perfect.
So the badge is actually really, really fun. There is a whole like game aspect to it, and because it is as fun as it is, it's causing a giant line where people are trying to get new parts and other things. But the whole thing is there's like a mini game, and it's a turn-based RPG, and I didn't discover that the game was going to be as fun until bouncy balls.
Sure, why not?
That the game was going to be as fun until late yesterday afternoon. And then I started playing it, and then if there's something that scratches the itch on my brain, I just go all in.
You were clearly scratched.
I was scratching at that itch for sure. And so, yeah, I was running back and forth across the street because they shut the venue down, but we were all hanging out. And there's a timer that resets after each battle that's 10 minutes. So I would just run across the street, do a battle, run back, run across the street. Yeah, it was, and I was essentially collecting all these coins for the game so that I could buy parts today when the vending machine opened up. And then when the vending machine came back online this morning, I could buy at least the highest level parts that I could purchase without doing loot drops. And then I just went all in on that, and then I won. And then I won, and I finished the challenge, and got a flipper 0, because that's if you make it through all of the different challenges on it and all the different, boss fights and everything like that, the ultimate prize was the first however many people to finish it would get a flipper. And I was like, I got to do that. Like, I don't know. It's not about the flipper. It was just I need to win. Yeah. Yeah.
Got this itch.
I don't know.
What's the future thing? What's a project you're working on that you're excited about? What's in your free time? I was putting in air quotes in your.
Yeah.
What's got you excited?
I don't know. I mean, I spend a lot of time doing all the things that I'm doing right now, like community-wise, and involved with Black Hat and DEF CON and all those things. And people will often say to me, like, what are your other hobbies? Like, what are the things that you do that aren't security-related? But I genuinely feel spoiled in that this is what I love to do. I joke that I would do this for free, and that's true. I would. I mean, I would do security something for free, even if I wasn't paid for it. But that my kids like heat and food, and so I do.
And the lack of jail time,
Right. Pesky little prison. But But yeah, I'm just really, really fortunate that my hobby turns out to be what I do as a career. And so when I do have free time, I put together some badge I got at a conference somewhere that I didn't have time to put together when I was there, or I order a lot of.
That's actually when I figured out this badge was good, because most of the time, you're dealing with that later.
Right.
And here you are at the con, like all in, and I'm like, this must be actually good.
It must be fun, because Grifter's scratching an itch. Yeah, it's true. Normally I just put it in my pocket and I don't think about it, but I like it. So it's been really fun. But now I have all the power-ups, and I finished, and I'm like, I have a day and a half.
Got all the hearts on Zelda. Now what?
Yeah, now what? So instead I went and helped other people, because now I'm OP as hell because I've got everything. So I'm just going up and helping, other people try to be successful. So that's fun too. But that's part of what I like doing as well, right? So.
If somebody wants to approach and talk to Grifter, as we've covered this mass domain of the things you've accomplished and done and influenced and fingerprinted throughout all these years, and they see you as this elusive Pokemon character that they can't approach because they don't have enough skill sets and points to do so, what's something that they can say with some commonality or ground that they can chat with you and feel like it's okay to come talk to you?
Just, hey, what's up, man? Like, I think it's nice that I think most people that I talk to, I'm lucky enough that they say nice things about me, and at least not just to my face. Like, I've heard, like, third-party thing where people are like, oh, he's, like, the nicest guy, right? Like, I'm super approachable. Just come up and say, hey. There's nothing that I don't want to talk about. You want to come up and talk about, InfoSec stuff? Fantastic. You want to talk about, movies or something you're watching on TV, or books that you like, or anime, or whatever it is. Like, just come up and start chatting. Like, I like lock-picking stuff. I like all these different aspects of security. I was a big phone freak. Like, so if you want to talk about stuff like that, I just love all of this stuff. So, there is nothing that you can't come up and just say, hey, like, I like meeting new people. So,
well, to your face, you are a very nice guy. You don't have to get it third party. We appreciate.
I don't believe you.
We appreciate all you've done for the community as a whole, and selfishly for what you've done here in Utah, and for the people around here, and SAINTCON, and keynoting, and helping us get speakers, and all the effort that you put in to do all these things. And thank you for joining us in the SAINTCON hallway.
Hey, thanks, man. Anytime.